Welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit, here back with another massive episode as we continue towards the start of the 2024-2025 NBA season. It is rapidly approaching. It's just around the corner. The anticipation is absolutely at fever pitch now. I couldn't be more excited if I tried. It really is the most exciting time of year if you're an NBA fan. Just the resumption of basketball in our lives. It cannot come soon enough. Now, a big episode in store today. If you tuned into last week, I gave my Eastern Conference season predictions. This week, I'm tackling the Western Conference. Now, I always find this considerably more difficult to do. The teams, I think, are so on par. There's going to be a lot of teams that I put forth in my predicted standings that a lot of you guys aren't going to agree with. And there's one in particular that I feel I'm going to get a lot of backlash for. And I can't wait for it. So stay tuned to find out which team that is momentarily. Before we get into it, though, a big shout out to both Stadium Scene and The Cover. Both those networks continuing to showcase all of my work here at the Daily Dribble, as well as a whole host of other content creators in and around Australia, New Zealand, the US, and Canada. Their support means the absolute world to me. Cannot thank you guys enough for all your continued hard work. Okay, without further ado, let's get into my Western Conference predictions. It is the second part of a two-part series. Tackled the East last week. Now, how it's going to work, again, same as last week, I'll be going from 15 through to the predicted 1 seed. And again, like last week, this is purely based on where I think these teams are going to finish across the regular season, not in terms of the likelihood of winning the title. So I just want to make that abundantly clear. You can be a championship favorite, but not finish as the top 1 or 2 seed. This is just purely based on those standing predictions. As I said, I tell you what, this was bloody tough. I really kind of struggled with this. Every team bar 1 or 2, I think, is going to be so close this year. But it's going to make for a compelling season nevertheless. Without further ado, though, let's go into my predicted 15th seed for this season in the Western Conference. I had the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, on paper, their starting 5 doesn't actually look terrible. Looking at Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, the recently acquired Denny Advia, Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton, they'll get some wins. That's solid. That is solid enough. That's a solid NBA team. I just think everyone else is well better poised at the moment. The big question, I think, heading into this season is, can Scoot Henderson step up and be a franchise piece? Last season, he averaged 14 points, 3 rebounds, 5.5 assists, yet was wildly inefficient. He went at 38.5% from the field and 32.5% from 3. Now, that's just not going to cut it. So here's hoping he can make that sophomore jump and really elevate his game in year 2. I'm still super high, though, on Shadon Sharp. I think he's the player on the Blazers that I'd be most watching out for this season. Whilst I think Ayton, Grant, Simons, they're all better players than what they've displayed, in particular over the last 12 months. This could be a real kind of turning, their fortunes around this season. I feel as if they'll claim a few scalps, but overall, I anticipate it'll be a pretty disappointing year there in Portland once again. Going up to 14, I had the Utah Jazz. I don't think the Jazz are going to start like with a Cinderella run as to which they did last year. They were incredibly hot out of the gates before petering off in the back end of the season. I just think, as I said before, every other team is too good. Lauri Markkanen will continue to lead them and put up impressive stats. And I spoke about some of their young players over the course of the last few weeks. Keontae George, Taylor Hendricks, hopefully they can make a bit of a leap. But even still, they're off the pace. For me, at the moment, I think Walker Kessler is the name that really needs to step up and elevate his game. He looked, going back 12, 24 months ago, he looked destined for big things and really was kind of that second coming of Rudy Gobert. He's cooled off considerably. Since the 2022-2023 season, he's gone down in all major counting categories and hasn't looked as nearly as an imposing force over those last 12 months. At this stage, depth charts, if you look online, they have John Collins playing at the starting five. And that just kind of shows his slippage down the pecking order over that last 12 months there, Kessler. I think the Jazz have a lot of work to do on their hand. If they want to go any higher than 14th, I just can't say it. As I said, I think all the other teams above them are just that little bit better. And yeah, the Jazz, they've got really nothing to play for this season. So 14th it is. Up to 13, I had the San Antonio Spurs. Now, they're a team I'm actually quite excited to see this season. I think Chris Paul linking up with Victor Wembanyama is going to be must-watch TV. I spoke about Wemby. It would have been a fortnight ago now. Tune into that one if you haven't already on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watching this one on YouTube. Spoke about fantasy players you'd most want to kind of look to get on your squad. And Wemby was one of these. I said at the time, I think he's a sneaky dark horse pick for MVP, which just sounds ridiculous. But if you go back and listen to that episode, and I spoke about the stats he put up last season, and what he's projected to do this season, playing alongside a competent guard in Chris Paul, he's set for a monster year. He's probably going to get DPOY as well if he averages, again, like four blocks and a steal a game. He's just an absolute freak of nature. So, yeah, don't be surprised to see him as a dark horse MVP pick for a lot of people. I think really some of their depth pieces are a little bit sketchy, but they have enough talent there to be a handful on most nights. Playing alongside Chris Paul, I think will unlock the best in players like Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes. Not exactly household names or, players that light up your eyes, but playing alongside someone the caliber of Paul will hopefully bring out the best in them. And if that so happens, don't be surprised to see them go that little bit higher than 13th. As I said, I really wanted to put them higher. I just couldn't do it given the teams, I think, around them are just that little bit better. And just given that depth, as I said, I think their margin for error is quite small. Hence, I had to put them 13th. Yet don't be surprised to see them potentially push towards a play-in spot, which would be tremendous. Okay. I spoke at the top of the episode about a pick that was probably going to get me in a lot of hot water. And this is it. My number 12 seed for this season is the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, as I said, the pick I have no doubt I'm going to get the most backlash for, and probably fair enough. The Grizz had a lot of guys last season who stepped up and played big minutes as injuries just ran rampant over the squad. But to be honest, I really think they've kind of got a key squad of probably 6 to 7 players. And that's including if you count Zach Edey in this. Time will tell how that eventuates. I personally think he is the big swing piece for the Grizzlies this season. Favorite to win. Let's go win. To win Rookie of the Year. His partnership with Jar is really going to shape their season. Jar, again, he's the franchise star. Across last season, he only played 9 games, yet in that time averaged 25 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 8 assists. If that's the level of Jar they get this season, across, I don't anticipate he'll play 82 games, but let's say 65 games, I think this prediction will look very, very silly. I put them in there just because I really didn't know where else to put them. The teams I've put above them, I kind of have warranted answers. But the Grizz are a team that could probably finish anywhere from 3rd to 12th, I think. So I've put them down the bottom rungs of that. I have no doubt I'm going to receive a lot of backlash. I would love to hear your thoughts, though. Where do you think the Grizz will finish up this season? I'm in for a bloodbath this week. Nevertheless, let's push ahead to number 11. I had the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, losing Paul George was undoubtedly the big news to come out of their camp this season, or this off-season, as placing a lot of trust in both Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. If either of them get injured, the wheels are going to completely fall off. And I just don't know if I trust both their health statuses at the moment. I think getting Derek Jones Jr. there from the Mavs was a good piece. It's not an exact like for like on Paul George, but it's quite a tidy pickup. Got some depth with signings like Bones Highland, Kevin Porter Jr., Chris Dunn. That's all fine. Not particularly big needle movers, but their season is purely going to hinge on those two in Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. As it has done over the course of the last few years, I think injuries will strike them down at one point or another, both of them. And without one or potentially both of them, I think they're really going to struggle. The West is going to be so hotly contested this season. You cannot be afford to be off your game for, let's say they both play 55, 60 games. They're missing 20 odd games. With the teams and with the caliber of talent that's across the West, I just can't see them going any higher than 11th. So again, another pick that I think a lot of people would disagree with, but I just couldn't put them any higher than that. Which, again, if you're going back to Steve Ballmer, the investments you've made in this team over the course of the last few years, to have your team potentially not even make the play-in, that would just be criminal. So he will certainly be hoping that I'm proven wrong here. Guys, before we enter the top 10, just want to have a few quick words from my new sponsor, Kamikaze Energy. Hey guys, just Nick here with a couple of quick words. I want to show some real love to one of my new sponsors, Kamikaze Energy. These guys have been sorting me out for the last few weeks, and they have taken my game, my podcasting game, my running game, my just general day-to-day life to the next level. Providing me with a source of B3, B6, and B12 vitamins, as well as a huge source of electrolytes with zero sugar. These are a must-have. If you're lacking that little bit of energy, need that little pick-me-up, Kamikaze Energy is your new best friend. Guys, if you head to the link in any of my bios on social media or the podcast, there'll be a link there. Kamikaze Energy. Use the code KamiDribbler or just follow that link to get 15% off any of your orders. I certainly attest to the fact that these have helped me out considerably, and I have no doubt they'll do the same for you. Guys, you don't need wings when you have Kamikaze Energy. Go check them out now and elevate your game. Perfect. Back into the good stuff, guys. Going up to number 10, I had the Houston Rockets. This was another team I really would have loved to have put them higher. I think they're going to be super, super fun this year. And with that young core that I've spoken a bit about over the course of the last few weeks, Alperen Sengun, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., Armin Thompson, and now Reed Shepherd added to the mix, that's going to be pretty potent for the next 5 to 10 years. But you put them alongside players who are established NBA players in Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, and the newly acquired Steven Adams. They've got a nice blend of youth and experience. Again, another player that I spoke about as a sneaky dark horse MVP pick, and by dark, I mean very dark, Alperen Sengun. He has all the makings of a future MVP. With the numbers he puts up, he's really the fulcrum of this team. And I think it becomes more of a reality if they can somehow claw themselves into a playoff spot. It's not the most absurd thing to put out there. Averaged 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists last season. There's no reason to suggest that he won't be even better this coming round. Again, think they're probably just a year off the Rockets as a whole from being a legit playoff team. But they're making really good strides nevertheless. They're poised really well at the moment to be a formidable force over the next 5 years. So I had them in 10th for this year. Going up to number 9, the Golden State Warriors. After losing Klay Thompson to the Mavs, this really is a new phase for the Warriors. The Splash Brothers have officially ended. Instead, now we've got the Splash Buddies there with Steph and the newly acquired Buddy Hield, Cole Anderson, and DeAnthony Melton also being added to the fold. It's quite a solid roster they've got. It just doesn't feel quite as potent. It doesn't quite have that aura that they have over the last couple of years. And that's to be expected. I think Steph will continue to do Steph things and be one of the best players in the league. last season averaging 26.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 5 assists. He's going to continue to do that. He does that in his sleep. Their success this year will be determined by improvements from Brandon Podziemski, Jonathan Kuminga, and probably to a lesser extent, Moses Moody there. If these guys can step up and help usher in this next iteration of the Warriors, they'll be in decent shape. Again, I don't think those strides, if made, will bear too fruitful this season, but it'll help them transition into that next phase over the next, 1, 2, 3 years. If these younger guys can step up and make that step, in particular, Kuminga. This if you look at his career progression thus far, he's on track to become a superstar player. And the Warriors are certainly hoping for that. This is probably his breakout year with Clay out of the fold, him kind of moving up in the pecking order a little bit there. Very excited to see what he can do. But yeah, couldn't put them any higher than 9th. Up into 8th, I had the Sacramento Kings. Now, the Kings have absolutely doubled down on the offensive side, acquiring DeMar DeRozan from the Bulls. Yeah, wow. Alongside De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis there, they're going to put up 130 points every night, I reckon. The problem with that is, though, the defensive side could be very problematic. I just don't think they have enough size or defensive acumen to stop many teams within the league. At the minute, reports are suggesting that Keon Ellis will start, and that'll bring Herder off the bench. I quite like this. I think Ellis brings out a little bit more D, whilst Herder can come off the bench and just shoot away, which we know and love him for. Him and Monk, imagine bringing those two flamethrowers off the bench. Kevin Herder and Malik Monk, they're going to be putting up probably 23s a game between the two of them off the bench. That's big numbers, and is really going to be an exciting little storyline that plays out for the Kings, how their bench unit goes. If they can somehow be better on the defensive end, though, there's certainly a world in which they push towards that top 4 to top 6 spots, but I just don't think it'll happen. If nothing else, though, if you're a Kings fan, this season is going to be super, super fun to watch, or even just a casual NBA fan. I would certainly put them pretty high on your league pass kind of hierarchy, because, yeah, they're going to be must-watch TV there in Sacktown. Going up to number 7, I had the LA Lakers. It's startling. You really can't expect much more from a guy who turned 40 in December. Now, he averaged 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists last season. LeBron James is just incredible. There is just not enough superlatives to actually explain what he's doing at the moment. But he just needs blokes to continue to step up and help him. A lot of that's going to fall on AD, Reeves, and probably D'Angelo Russell as well. Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell, they're probably the two big names. Like, I think AD's been really solid the last 12 to 24 months. But Reeves and Russell need to continue to help and support those two stars. Speaking of support, the supporting cast needs to actually stay healthy this season and contribute. Like, there's a lot of players there that didn't feature or make an impact at all last season. Like, that cast is quite well-rounded. Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, Max Christie, Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood. These are all players that have, shown they are legitimate NBA players and can perform at a high level. But unfortunately, outside of Rui and a little bit of Max Christie, last year, not a lot of them did much to actually help and support the King. I think there's enough talent there to be a decent team. I don't believe it's a championship level team, which pains me to say. That being said, I'm certainly super excited to see how rookie Dalton Connect goes and to see how he goes letting that 3-ball fly. I think he is a hell of a prospect. I think it's going to be great to see Bronny and Bron on the court together at some point. We saw them in a preseason game the other day. Very wholesome content. I think we'll see it briefly for the regular season, but not expecting Bronny to contribute much this season. He more or less looks like G League fodder. But yeah, as a Lakers fan, it pains me to say I'm not holding a lot of optimism for this season. Would love to be proved wrong, though. So he's hoping that is the case there. Up to number 6, I had the Phoenix Suns. The Suns have a team that it's championship caliber. Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant in your starting 5. That's top tier. That is all time. And with other players like Tyus Jones, Grayson Allen, Josh Okogie, and Royce O'Neal rounding out the edges, they should be far more competitive than what they have been over the last season or two. All indications suggest at the moment that Tyus Jones will start as a point guard. I think he's just going to give some really great looks to the heavy hitters in that team, Bill, Booker, KD. Like that is really exciting. Like I've spoken about a little bit over the last few weeks, what a talent that I think Jones is. And with him feeding it to those superstar players, they're going to get some phenomenal looks there. They're a team that I put them at 6th. As I said, I think they've got a squad that's championship befitting. But I don't think they'll fire on all cylinders throughout the regular season. As long as they can stay healthy, I think they'll be a real handful in the playoffs. So hence I've put them 6th. They've gone balls to the wall to get a squad assembled like this. They need to start repaying the front office for doing that. They need results. They need to make a deep playoff run. Regular season's not that much of a concern, hence 6th. Playoffs, they need to do something really big here. Up to number 5, I had the Minnesota Timberwolves. The big move has been in the last week or so, and that's moving on from Karl Anthony Towns. They acquired Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo there from the Knicks. Really quite a fascinating move, and I touched on this briefly last week. But they had a team that made it to the conference finals and was trending upwards. They've kind of pulled that apart, like one of their big pieces there, offloaded him and brought in 2 other players they're not at the superstar level like Towns, but really competent players in their own right. I personally quite like the move. They save a heap of money on the salary cap front. And I think Dante DiVincenzo, he's a huge get. His output compared to his salary is second to none. My big concern, though, is the spacing for the Wolves. Now, Randall looks set to start. He shot 31% from 3 last season. If he's not making them and, comes inside that lane, it's going to be extremely crowded with both him and Gobert in the lane. Now, ideally, Edwards can hit the 3 ball. Ideally, you want him attacking the rim. And it's going to be infinitely harder with 2 big bodies in there. And that was the benefit of having Cat. He spaced the floor really, really well. So I think a lot of onus is going to be on Randall being able to make defenders accountable to step outside and kind of guard him from the 3-point line. Whether that happens or not, I think will determine a lot how they go this season. It is really going to be a fascinating year for them. And I just feel like this is a year like he's kind of on the periphery, but this could well be the year that Ant establishes himself as a top 5 player within the league. Watch out for that storyline for sure, I would say. Up to number 4, I had the Denver Nuggets. With Nikola Jokic out there, you would be silly to discount them. Now, I don't think they've probably done quite enough to retool around him. Losing KCP is a big hit. That means they're going to expect a lot of output and increased performance from these young pieces in Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, Hunter Tyson, and in particular there, Christian Brown. Now, I think adding Russell Westbrook and Dario Saric, which I've spoken about over the last few weeks, helps. But their depth for me is still a bit of a concern. Jamal Murray, I really feel is the player that needs to kind of step up here and put himself as an all-NBA level player. If that happened, the Nuggets could well be back on the march towards championship glory, but a lot hinges on Murray. I think they'll be pretty solid throughout the regular season, but I think their depth will hurt them a little bit across it. Hence, couldn't put them in the top three, but certainly don't sleep on the Nuggets. Into the top three. At number 3, I had the New Orleans Pelicans. Big signing of DeJounte Murray, I believe, thrusts them back into title contention. I think it's going to take a little bit to work out their rotations and ball handling situation. Given you've got Murray, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion, who will all want their touches, I think it'll be a bit of an ironing out phase. Now, my big worry is their center stocks. Again, I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. You're putting a lot of pressure on rookie Yves Missi, who was selected as the number 21 pick in this year's draft. Daniel Tice might start. He did in a preseason game the other day. They will kind of vie for the spot there. But even still, it's probably not a center rotation that's befitting of a championship team. And that's probably the one bit I think they're going to potentially struggle with. Again, though, if Missy makes an immediate impact, the Pelicans, I feel, are right there with the best of them. Zion Williamson, his scoring has gone down over the past few seasons. Has gone down last season compared to the last few seasons. He averaged 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists across the 2023-2024 season. Yet, I think these numbers are set to shoot back up towards that 27 points per game, which he was at the years prior, with DeJounte Murray diming him up. I really feel as if they still had Jonas Valanciunas, I think they would be a title frontrunner. But until Missy proves himself and we see a little bit of him throughout the regular season, they're just one rung off that pace, I believe. Pardon me. Up into the top 2. At number 2, I had the Dallas Mavericks. Now, they are the reigning Western Conference champs. Had a pretty solid off-season. The big issue in the finals for them was having a tertiary scorer. A lot was placed on Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. They've now certainly got that player in Klay Thompson, acquiring him from the Warriors. With Kyrie and Luka there in the fold, he's not going to be touching the ball a heap. But when he does, he's going to let that thing fly. It is going to be super, super fun to watch. On top of that, they added Najee Marshall and Quentin Grimes, which further adds to that three-point shooting in their ranks. Like they're going to score a boatload of points this season. I spoke about the Kings looking to put up probably 130 a game. The Mavs aren't going to be far off them either. And the difference between the Kings and the Mavs is that I think their defense is actually good enough to halt many teams as well. I'm loving the chemistry between Luka and Kyrie. I think they are an incredibly dynamic duo that certainly puts the rest of the league on notice. With where their roster's currently poised, and I just feel they're super balanced at the moment. And despite not having them as my predicted number 1 seed, they're probably my pick to win the West once again. So watch out for the Mavs this year. And my predicted number 1 seed for the 2024-2025 season in the Western Conference is the OKC Thunder. Now, they've got a team of absolute dogs. Acquiring Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein just adds to this. With a couple of Williams in there, a Dort, and a Holmgren, this has the makings of a championship team. Now, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander leading them, they are certainly a chance of that. He averaged 30 points, 7 rebounds, 6.5 assists, and 2 steals per game last year, and he's rightly one of the front runners for the MVP. I've spoken pretty extensively, if you're a long-time listener of the show, I've spoken pretty extensively about them being a team that's been built to be a force over the next 5 to 10 years. They're built to be a force now, and especially in the regular season. I don't know if I'm 100% sold on them in the playoffs yet. Regular season, though, they're going to play hard every single night. And I think they'll remain, given their age, they're a younger team. I think they'll remain considerably healthier than some of these other squads. I would certainly underestimate them at your own risk, despite not having them as my probably Western Conference Finals pick. They are certainly my pick for the number 1 seed this year. Guys, there you have it. To recap my Western Conference season grades for season 2024-2025, I had in number 15, the Portland Trail Blazers. Number 14, the Utah Jazz. Number 13, the San Antonio Spurs. Number 12, the Memphis Grizzlies. Number 11, the LA Clippers. 10, the Houston Rockets. Up into 9, I had the Golden State Warriors. 8, the Sacramento Kings. 7, the LA Lakers. Number 6, the Phoenix Suns. 5, I had the Minnesota Timberwolves. 4, the Denver Nuggets. 3, the New Orleans Pelicans. Number 2, the Dallas Mavericks. And my predicted number 1 seed for this season, the OKC Thunder. Guys, let me know your thoughts, what I got right, what I got wrong. Take no prisoners. I'm a big boy. I can take it. I love having these debates and discussions with you guys. It really does make the show. So let's have at it this week. Looking ahead to next week, I'll be going through and giving my predictions for all the major awards in the league, speaking about the MVP, the Sixth Man of the Year, Coach of the Year, etc., all those awards that we know and love. I'll be giving my predicted winner as well as dark horses for that one there. Be sure to subscribe wherever you watch or listen to the show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watching this one on YouTube, wherever you listen to the show, to get that one as soon as it drops. The news is continuing to ramp up on the socials as well, so be sure to follow all of them: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok, to get all the latest news from both the NBA and the NBL. As it's continuing to ramp up, the season is just around the corner, so you don't want to miss a thing. Stay up to date with the socials. Till next week though, guys, I will leave it at that. Enjoy the last couple of weeks without basketball, NBA basketball that is. It's just around the corner, so certainly get excited for that. Till next week though, have a fantastic week, and I cannot wait to speak to you soon. Remember, be good or be good at it. See you guys.